I competed in a National Mario Kart 8 competition. I competed against nearly 200 of the best Mario Kart players across the nation. We competed for 12 weeks with a different course each week. This is what happened. Before we get into the competition, let me give you a quick rundown of how the competition worked. The competition consisted of a series of 11 time trials for a total of 12 weeks, as there was a bye week for the week of Thanksgiving. Each week was centered around a different course. We were to practice the course throughout the week and record our best time. Then we were to submit that time on Friday to be verified and scored. The first 2 weeks were an unscored preseason round, but every week after that we were scored by our overall placing. Week 1, the first week of the preseason, was Mario Kart Stadium. Week 2, the second and final week of the preseason, was Toad Harbor. The third week was Sunshine Airport. The fourth week was Toad's Turnpike, originally released for the N64. The fifth week was Donut Plains 3, originally released for the SNES. The sixth week was Yoshi Valley, originally released for the N64. The seventh week was Mount Wario. The eighth week was Grumble Volcano, originally released for the Wii. The ninth week was Electrodrome. The 10th week was the week of Thanksgiving and had no submission. Week 11 was Moo Moo Meadows, originally released for the Wii. And the final week, week 12, was very fitting, as it was Rainbow Road. Now let's get on to week 1. Since the first 2 weeks were preseason, they didn't count towards the overall score. However, they did give me a baseline of how I would do throughout the whole competition. Before the competition started, I managed to get an incredible time. So I figured I could quickly get better with more practice, right? Well, since the recording was on, and so was the pressure, this happened. Then, after some time, I finally made it past the start, just to do this. Yeah, that started another trend. Then, after hours of practice and dozens of failures, this happened. Right off the bat, I started off with a max launch boost. Then, I hit a tight drift boost to set up the next turn. As I approached the first mushroom skip, I started my drift at the perfect time, and mushroom boosted across the gap while charging up an ultra mini turbo. Then, I drifted around the corner. I take a sharp line to charge up a mini turbo and snag 2 more coins. I then do a 180-degree drift and release a super mini turbo. I trick as I go off the ramp and grab as many coins as possible. In this case, I only got 1. Lastly, I turn the final corner to finish lap 1, a 36.6 second lap. I then do the same thing throughout the second lap, picking up an additional 4 coins, finishing the second lap in 35 seconds. As I started my third lap, I thought, this is a good run. Brother, don't blow it now. Thankfully, I didn't. I finished the final lap with 8 coins and a total time of 1 minute, 46 seconds, beating my personal record by 7/10 of a second, and my competition record by a whole second. I then said to myself, don't even try. All I had to do was wait until Monday morning to see where I placed. When I logged in Monday morning, I discovered something that shocked me. I'd gotten 5th. Out of all 200 people across the nation, I'd placed 5th. This left me speechless. Well, really, I was quite the opposite of speechless. However, I was quick to burst my own bubble, because I remembered something. This week was my best course, and next week just happened to be my worst. Week 2, the final week of the preseason. My time going into the competition this week was poor, so I needed to improve. However, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't get a faster time. Until someone in a Mario Kart group chat that I am a part of posted the world record time for Toad Harbor, and that is what clicked for me. While I didn't know how to do some of the shroomless shortcuts he did, it was enough to get this time. First off, I only got about half of the possible start boost. I drift around the corner to line myself to hit the double jump. I trick over both of those and then drift around the corner, charging a super mini turbo. I then drift up onto the ramp to take the top path. I trick over the jump and then drift as soon as I land to change my direction and rejoin the top. I drift around the 180-degree turn and charge up an Ultra Mini Turbo. I release my turbo and then line up to make the jump. I trick off the jump and land on the top of the trolley and bounce on it. I then boost across the final patch of grass to end the first lap in 46.5 seconds. The second lap started crazy, with me almost missing the landing after the second jump, but after that, it went smoothly, and I ended with the second lap in 45.5 seconds. The third lap was my best lap yet, in which I made no major mistakes and ended the final lap with a total time of 2 minutes and 18 seconds. I was confident that was the best I could do on this course. Now all I could do was hope that my time would hold up. When I logged in on Monday morning, I didn't know what to think. Last week, I got 5th, but I was not confident going into this week. I looked at the score to find out that I had gotten 7th. I was so relieved. I was so excited that I had still done well, even though this was the course that I was the least confident going into. I was getting excited to get onto the regular season, especially since next week was the week that I had spent the most time practicing on. Week 3, the first week that actually mattered. I was confident going into this week. I had placed in the top 10 during the preseason. I also managed to get inside the top 10 on Toad Harbor, which I thought was my hardest course. So when I hit the course, I wasn't really worried about practicing for hours. In fact, I just looked at the best run I could find on YouTube and then practiced for about half an hour. During that half an hour, I got this run. I started out by getting the almost maximum start boost. I then drifted and tricked off the first jump. I trick off the second jump and then grab a coin under the first plane. I then trick off the next jump and immediately drift left. Then I fall off the platform and mushroom boost across the grass gap. Then I go along the boost panels and trick off the ramp, grabbing 2 more coins in the process. Once I get onto the zero gravity section, I drift to take the shortest line possible while also charging an Ultra Mini Turbo. I release my turbo as soon as I go off the ramp to get a good boost. I drift around the turn to re-enter the airport. Then I trick over the baggage claim to finish the first lap. The next 2 laps follow the same pattern. However, my lap time improved with each lap. As I ended the third lap, I ended with a total time of 2 minutes and 11 seconds. I submitted my time and asked my friends who were also taking part in this competition what time they had gotten. And one of them got 2 minutes and 9 seconds. Not only beating me, but beating me by 2 seconds. After hearing this, I booted Mario Kart back up and tried again. However, I could not manage to get a faster time. I then realized that all I could do was wait and see if I was in the top 10. When I logged in on Monday, I kind of knew what my score was going to be. I decided to check my score on Sunday because I was impatient. I scored 9th. However, you have until Sunday at midnight to submit your score. So when I checked back on Monday, I found out that I was no longer in 9th. In fact, I had fallen into 14th place. Not only did I fall out of the top 10 for my first time, but I also did it on the week that it was actually scored. There was some good bit of news, however. My friend who was in the competition, Hailstorm, placed 7th, and this won't be the last time you see her. I did not make it into the top 10 leaderboards, but here they are for the sake of completion. While I was sad to be out of the top 10, I needed the realization that I am not vastly better than my friends, and that I must work hard to get into the top 10. I can't slack off. That said, I made sure that next week, my momentum was going to change. Week 4, Redemption Week. After the loss in the last week, I was chomping at the bit to get started with the competition. So with all of the excitement and readiness, I hit the course. After the first couple of runs, I had hit a standstill, but I was not content with my time. I decided to change up my kart from my usual Ink Striker to the Biddy Buggy. Little did I know that this one move alone would change Mario Kart for me forever. I could move. I didn't know what it was about this new kart, but all of a sudden I felt like I could charge mini turbos in half the time. I also felt like I had so much more control, much more so than the stats would suggest. I felt like I had all of the skills and equipment to make my golden run, so I re-hit the track. After a couple of tries, everything came together. First off, I point my stick to the left to start to steer my kart before the launch. I then drift and collect 3 coins. I charge a boost while going around the first turn. I drift around the second turn while charging up an Ultra Mini Turbo. I then release it and snag 4 more coins from the coin stack. Then I go under the bridge grabbing 3 more coins, maxing out my coin count. I then drift around the corner, bumping the wall twice. I release my boost onto the straightaway. I then drift around the final turn and use my mushroom to boost across the finish line. The second lap went similar to the first, except I took this ramp to go a little faster. The third lap went just like the first, and I ended with a time of 1 minute and 55 seconds. I put my time into the group chat that I am a part of, and Hailstorm said that she got 1 minute and 53 seconds. She beat me again. I watched her ghost and realized that the only difference was the number of walls she hit. I hit more walls than her. I tried a couple of times, but I still hit the walls, so I hung up my hat and submitted my time. When I logged in on Monday, I was really hoping that I was going to be in the top 10. When I looked, I found out that I had gotten 10th. I had made it back in the top 10. Barely, but hey, I made it back in. Hailstorm placed 8th. Even though I placed in the top 10, I didn't last week, so I didn't have the points required to make it into the overall leaderboards. I am in 12th place. Since there was a tie for 10th place, however, the gap between 11th place and myself is large. This is the overall leaderboards and how Hailstorm is doing on. Overall, this week was a good week. Now all I had to do was keep this momentum going. Week 5, already halfway done with the competition. When I first looked at this track, I thought that there wasn't really any skips besides the ones placed there by Nintendo on purpose. Boy, was I wrong. This turned out to be the one with the skips that were the hardest to pull off. When I first hit the track, I had a perfect run. Perfect without skips, that is. I knew there had to be a better way, so I looked up some skips and what I saw worried me. They looked hard. So I decided, since I had a decent amount of time to practice, I might as well try all these skips. So I hit the course. At first, I avoided the skip, as I thought it would be the hardest. However, eventually I tried it, and I kept trying. But then I thought, nah, there has to be a better use of my practice time. So I moved on to the next skip. These were much easier, and when chained together, I was able to drastically lower my time. Eventually, I got to a roadblock, but just before then, I managed to get this run. I started out by boosting ahead and drifting around the turn, taking the sharpest line possible. As I approach the end of the bridge, I use a mushroom to boost across grass. I then turn and drift around the turn and up onto the slope. I release a super mini turbo to clear the small patch of grass. I then do a 180-degree drift and charge up an ultra mini turbo. I release it and then trick off the second gopher hole. I drift around the final turn and end lap 1 with a time of 28.8 seconds. In the second and third laps, I make some mistakes. However, I end up pulling it out and end with a total time of 1 minute and 28 seconds. Since I made those mistakes, I try some more, but for some reason I can't seem to replicate the same success that I had in the first lap. I decided to just stop practicing and that whatever happens, happens. When I logged in on Monday morning, I was hoping to hop into the top 10 overall. But when I looked, I found out that half of what I wanted was true. I had placed 6th. The best I had placed since the preseason. While it was good news I had placed well, I still didn't have the points required to hop into 11th, since there was a 4-way tie for 8th. and to add insult to injury, 7th and above were starting to run away with the competition. 1st and 2nd were already long gone, and Hailstorm, being one of the people running away with it, was in 6th. After realizing all this, I concluded that next week was going to be my last shot before the gap became too large to leap across. Week 6, the final shot. If I wanted any hope of placing in the top 10, now was my last chance. All it took was for the people in 8th or lower to place in the top and I was done for. I told myself that I would not let this happen. For this week, I practiced more than I had ever practiced before, most of it off camera, mind you. When I finally decided to sit down, record, and practice for a while, I started out with a great time. I immediately beat my personal best by 5 seconds. When I did this, I thought, wow, either my time was really bad or this might be my week. After looking at a video, I realized the key was coins. I realized I needed to get almost all of my coins on the first lap. After trying that, I started to get a faster time every single time. Sometimes only by 1/10 of a second, but hey, progress was progress. Eventually, I got to a time I was happy with. Here is how it went. I get a good start boost and get ready to drift around the corner. I drift around the turn and charge up an Ultra Mini Turbo. I then release it and go over the wooden bridge. I trick off the bridge and drift around the corner. I trick off the 2 platforms and snag a coin. I then get ready for the hardest part of the run, grabbing 7 coins without missing a single one. I start my drift at the start of the turn and drift into the first 3 coins. I release an Ultra Mini Turbo to drift and grab 2 more coins. I then finish the S-turn by drifting and grabbing the final 2 coins. I had done it. Now all I needed was to race good and make sure that all those coins mattered. I hit the skip and nail it, just barely avoiding the trees. I finished the first lap in 44.2 seconds. The second and third lap, I do the same thing as the first. I just take advantage of not having to grab coins by taking the shortest line possible. I end the final lap with a total time of 2 minutes and 7 seconds. I asked Hailstorm how she did and found out that she got 2 minutes and 9 seconds. I had done it. I had finally beaten her again. I submitted my time and was excited for Monday, as I was really hoping I was going to do good since I beat her this week. Monday morning, the day of truth. I looked at the scores and practically fell out of my chair. I had gotten 3rd. Woo! Let's go! Not only did I get 3rd, my friends did good as well. Hailstorm got 5th, and Pink Shy Guy, another one of my friends in the competition, placed 9th, in the top 10 for the first time. But before you ask, no, she does not use Pink Shy Guy. I know it doesn't make sense. As for the overall leaderboards, the points I was awarded for 3rd place helped catapult me into 7th, only 2 points behind 6th. Hailstorm also jumped up from 6th into 4th. Me and her needed to keep this momentum going if we both wanted to place inside the top 5. I had hope, but next week was going to be a pain, as it was Mount Wario. Week 7, the course with 1 lap. Well, kind of. Technically, there are 3 laps. However, the laps never repeat and the whole course is to go down the mountain. So it might as well be 1 lap. I had raced this course a good bit with my family for fun, so I knew what the hardest part of the course would be. The trees. Specifically, the trees in this section after the glider ramp. It was so easy to hit one of those trees, and when you hit a tree, you can lose 2 seconds or more easily. Therefore, when I started to practice this week, I knew my biggest adversary would be those trees. As I predicted, I kept hitting the trees. I was getting tired of getting a good run and then it coming to a screeching halt when I would hit a tree. So I searched for the tips on the trees, and I found a huge tip. However, I think it would best be explained by the man himself.
The easiest way to dodge the trees is to make sure there is always one tree between you and the wall.
Thanks Shortcat for the tip. Now that I knew how to avoid the trees, I was ready to try again. After a few more runs of hitting the tree, I finally got a clean run. First off, I closed the game and look at my time to see what the best time was so far. I find it funny that when I do a good run is the time when I close my game, but I digress. I start off with a good launch boost, and then trick off the plane to get onto the mountaintop. I drift boost, making an S-curve, and grab 3 coins. I drift and then trick off the ramp, grabbing another coin. I drift around the first ice turn and then trick off the ramp. I take the short line and drift around a 180-degree turn, charging up a Super Mini Turbo. I start the skip by charging a turbo and then tricking, ending the first lap in 25.8 seconds. I drift around the turn and grab 2 coins. I trick off the ramp and then trick off the left path. I trick off all 3 ledges and then trick off the ramp. I drift around the corner, trick down the stairs, and then drift around the corner. I then trick to get up onto the dam section. I run along the boost pads to get through the water quickly. I trick to get back up into the snow. I use my first mushroom to boost across the thick snow. I trick to pull out my glider and glide across the first part of the trees. I trick off the final trees, picking up a coin. I then drift in between the upright trees to end the second lap in 49.8 seconds. I trick off the ramp, picking up a coin. I then drift down the ski slopes, maxing out my coin count. I use my second mushroom and then trick across the bumps, gaining boost along the way. I drift around the corner and get ready to hit the boost panels. I hit all 8 boost panels. I trick off the last one and then boost through all 3 boost rings. I used my final mushroom to boost across the final patch of snow to finish the third lap with a final time of 1 minute 53 seconds. This was by far my best time, and I was feeling confident about it. I put it into my group chat, and Pink Shy Guy was the only person who responded, and I beat her. However, Hailstorm did not reply, so I was excited to see how she did. On Monday morning, I really wanted to see how Hailstorm did, so I looked and saw that she got second, and I got third. Our best placing yet. This was huge, and what's crazy is she beat me by 2/100ths of a second. I got 153.846, and she got 153.826. It was crazy how close we were to each other. Since we both did good, I was excited to see what our overall placing was like. On the overall leaderboards, she jumped up from 4th into 3rd, and I jumped from 7th into 5th. Just as I was starting to think about next week, I realized something. This was week 7. Only 4 more courses left in the competition. This saddened me, as I was really enjoying participating in the competition with my friends. However, for now, I needed to focus on the next course, Grumble Volcano. Week 8, the one with the changing course. As far as I know, Grumble Volcano is the only Mario Kart 8 course that changes as the lap progresses. Unlike other courses like Mount Wario, where the laps never repeat, in Grumble Volcano the laps do repeat. However, the width of the track becomes narrower and narrower as the race progresses. But enough about the track, let's get on to the competition. Once again, I started out the day by looking at the top ghost I could find to use the skips that they used. However, I ran into an issue. The way the course was changing was affecting the skips. On the first lap, I would do the skip and the tolerances were wide. However, once the second and third lap would come around, the tolerances for the skip would be so small, it was hard for me to hit and I kept falling into the lava. So I decided to just hit the skip on the first lap. After a few more tries, I got a half-decent run. I started out with a max launch boost, and I trick off the ledge and grab a coin. Then I drift around the curve. I drift around the second curve and grab 2 more coins. I drift off the ramp and go across the moving platform. I drift around the turn. I take the near path and grab 2 more coins. I drift around the turn and take the ramp to go into the air. I then drift around the turn and use a mushroom to jump across the lava. I then take the right path. I drift around the corner and grab 2 more coins. I trick over the ramp and then drift around the final turn. I trick over the ramp to finish the first lap in 43.9 seconds. The second lap went like the first lap, except instead of using my mushroom to hit the drift, I drift around this corner. I then use my mushroom to boost across the gap and finish the second lap in 42.5 seconds. The third lap went just like the second lap, except the course is a lot narrower than before, and it made it a lot more difficult. However, I didn't fall and I ended the third lap with a total time of 2 minutes and 9 seconds. I put my time in the group chat, but no one ever responded. I also was looking at the world record and my time was a lot slower than the world record. That, combined with the fact that no one in my group chat put their times in, started to make me nervous, and I thought that maybe all the momentum I had gained was gone. However, instead of sending myself into a tizzy, I just waited for Monday morning. I almost couldn't wait until Monday. I really wanted to look at the scores earlier, but I learned my lesson in week 3, so I waited until Monday. On Monday, I found out that we had some new people on the leaderboards. Both first and second place are new to the leaderboards. As for me and Hailstorm, I got 5th and she got 4th. I was so excited and I had a feeling that this was going to help our overall scores. When I looked at the overall score, I found out that there had been a huge shift. Hailstorm went from 3rd place into 2nd place, and I went up from 5th place into a tie for 4th. I was really excited, as I was already in the top 5, and now my dream of being on the podium was starting to come into view. All I had to do was do good in the final 3 weeks, and next week, Electrodrome was a course I had played countless times over the years. Week 9, Electrodrome. This week was... Wait, what? Electrodrome? Not Electrodrome. You mean to tell me that I've been saying it wrong this whole time? Week 9, Electrodrome. I needed to do good this week if I wanted to jump from a tie in 4th into 3rd. I would have to do well and hope 4th and 3rd didn't place. If that happened, I would be able to go into 3rd and have 2 weeks to try to solidify my place in 3rd. When I hit the course this week, I didn't have to look at a YouTube video as I already knew the skips for the course. The skips for the course was to mushroom across this gap at the ending of each lap. However, this skip is very hard to do correctly. If you go off the ramp too far to the left, this will happen. If you go off to the ramp too far to the right, this will happen. The only way to hit this skip correctly is to go off the 4th section of the ramp and hit the skip like this. Since this was so tight and the angles were difficult to control, I kept hitting the warp pipes, which would ruin the run. After an hour and a half, I managed to get a good run with a decent time of 2 minutes 11 seconds. When I put my time in the group chat, Hailstorm said that she got 2 minutes 9 seconds. I was thinking about calling it, and ended up calling it on Wednesday. But when Friday rolled around, I decided to try again because I feared that with my current time, I might not get a good enough score to put me into 3rd place. And if I didn't make the podium this week, it would be an uphill battle going into the final 2 weeks. Therefore, I re-hit the course. I practiced the course for about 3.5 more hours. During the 3.5 hours, I got a couple of good runs that were a little bit faster, and eventually I got a great run. I start off with a good launch boost and then trick off the ramp. I grab a coin while gliding onto the track. I drift around the first corner, charging up an Ultra Mini Turbo. I release the turbo and start to drift around the corner, grabbing 2 coins. I release an Ultra Mini Turbo. I hit the 0G boost and then grab 2 coins. I drift around the corner, charging up an Ultra Mini Turbo. I release the turbo, hit the 0G boost, and then release another turbo, grabbing a coin. Instead of tricking off the ramp, I drift off of it and glider vector off the ramp to get a better speed. I drift off the ramp and then the mushroom across the gap, ending the first lap in 44.6 seconds. The second lap goes similarly. except I grabbed 3 more coins and I hit the ending skip much better. I ended the second lap in 42.7 seconds. The third lap went just like the second lap, and I ended the third lap with a total time of 2 minutes, 10 seconds. Since I already knew Hailstorm's time, I had a decision to make. I could either try some more and try to shave off my time, or just submit as I had been playing for the last 3.5 hours. I ultimately decided to submit my time and wait for Monday morning. When I looked on Monday morning, I found something that relieved me. I got 4th. I was so happy that at least I should not go down in the rankings. Something that was equally cool is that Hailstorm beat the current first place, Midway Ryan, for the first time. When I looked at the overall leaderboards, I was not surprised to find that first and second did not change places, as they were kind of solidified due to their point gaps. However, I was surprised to find that I had made it into 3rd. I went up from a tie for 4th into 3rd. I was so happy that I had made it into the podium. Now all I had to do was hold on to that spot for 2 more weeks. Week 10. This week was the week of Thanksgiving, so there was no submission or course to practice. See you next week. Week 11. I was ready to get back at the competition. However, I hadn't played Mario Kart in over a week, so I had a feeling I would be a bit rusty. When I hit the course, I did okay. Nothing spectacular though. And after a while, I started to get into a groove. After a couple of times, something happened that had never happened before. I got a better score every single time. In fact, I would beat the last race by at least a half a second every single race. Eventually, I got a run I was thrilled with. I started off with a good launch boost. I start my drift and charge up an Ultra Mini Turbo. I grab a coin and release my turbo. I drift around the 2 switchbacks, but don't have to worry about the cows just yet. I use my mushroom to boost across the grass, avoiding the cows. I drift around the turn, trick off the ramp, and then drift around the turn. I trick off the ramp and then trick off the gopher. I drift around the final turn, charging up a mini turbo. I release it and end the first lap in 31.6 seconds. The second lap went similar, except I had to drift through the cows to not get hit. I also don't mushroom across the grass. Instead, I drift around the turn and then use my mushroom to boost around the final turn, ending the second lap in 31.5 seconds. The third lap went just like the second, except there were a lot more cows to dodge around. I ended the third lap with a final time of 1 minute 34 seconds. I thought that this was an incredible time, but none of my friends told me their times, so I was excited. However, I was a tiny bit nervous for Monday morning. On Monday morning, there was no messing around, so when I looked at the scores, I was excited about my placing. I got 3rd. I also immediately realized that the current top 3 overall, Midway Ryan, Hailstorm, and myself, got 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, respectively. As for the overall leaderboards, no significant change was made, except a couple of the lower places shifted around a bit. I was able to increase the gap between myself and 4th. I was ready to get on to next week, the final week, Rainbow Road. Week 12, the final week, Rainbow Road. This week, I started practicing on Thursday instead of my usual Wednesday. Since I started later this week, Hailstorm had already put her time in the chat, and she got 2 minutes 8 seconds. She also gave me a warning, the ending skip. She said that she practiced for 3 or 4 hours, and that her good runs were about an hour apart. With this knowledge, I looked up the skip and found out that you had to flat out fly off the course, fly in the air, and then land on the other section of the track. After I watched the world record run, I hit the course. My first run was terrible, losing to my previous best time by 19 seconds. However, I did do the skip correctly on the 3rd lap, so even though it was a failed attempt, I learned a lot about the skip. After some more times, I managed to hit the skip more consistently. Since I had gotten better at hitting the skip, I was able to focus on other parts of the run, such as this mushroom skip towards the beginning of the race. After a couple more runs, I got a good run of 2 minutes 11 seconds. After this run, I decided to take a break. After my break, I re-hit the course, and right off the bat, I got a new personal best of 2 minutes 11 seconds flat. After a couple more runs, I got this run. I start off with a good launch boost and then drift around the first turn, and then boost onto the zero gravity section. I drift around the third turn, charging up an Ultra Mini Turbo, grabbing 3 coins. I drift around the next turn, grabbing another coin. I trick off the ramp and grab 2 more coins. I trick off the ramp and then mushroom boost across the gap. I hit the boost panel and then trick off the ramp. I drift around the turn, charging a turbo and grabbing 2 coins. To start the big skip, I drift boost going off the course, fall through the air while charging a turbo. When I land back on the course, I release my turbo to regain my speed. I drift around the final turn, charging an Ultra Mini Turbo. I release it to boost across the finish line to end the first lap in 44.5 seconds. In the second lap, I hit both the mushroom and the ending skip better than the second lap. I also have the advantage of having all 10 coins, so I am able to go much faster. I end the second lap in 42.7 seconds. The third lap went just like the second lap, except I hit the mushroom skip slightly worse than the second lap. I ended the third lap with a total time of 2 minutes 10 seconds. After completing this run, I was so excited with my result. Now all I had to do was wait until Monday morning to see my final placing. I was especially excited for Monday morning, as I had already done everything I could in the competition, and I was awaiting the announcement. When I looked at the scores, I saw that I got 3rd. I was so excited that I had placed 3rd, as that was where I was in the overall leaderboards as of week 11. It was also cool that Hailstorm was able to secure 1st place for the first time in the final week. With that said, now it's time to view the final overall leaderboards. I looked at the final leaderboards to find out that I placed 3rd. I am so proud of my result in my first ever Mario Kart 8 competition. And that's it. I know it might seem like an unceremonious ending to a 12-week competition, but I had so much fun I didn't even care. Over the last 12 weeks, I met so many new people and made so many new friends. I know that next time I am invited to join a Mario Kart competition, I will accept no hesitation. As this week comes to a close, I would like to thank the competition organizers and all the people behind the scenes who organized and ran the competition. I would also like to thank my friends for participating in the competition, for the tips, and all the help and fun times we had together. Next, I would like to give a congratulations to all the people in the top 10. I would also like to give a special thanks to the over 200 people who came out and participated week in, week out.
Smash through the blocks that bar your way. No time for fear, just let it all fall away. Nobody believes in me and you, just look at the way they stare. So what if we live in a walled garden? As long as I've got you, then I don't care. Kick up the wall and take the plunge, tripping through 2 dimensions. Up on the moon wheels, so smooth, just lead the way. Up from my head in the
Lastly, I would like to thank you, the viewer, for watching the whole video, watching even through the credits. You are the reason I make these videos and why I love doing it. If you enjoyed, please subscribe, because I have some awesome content coming up in the near future. Until next time, I'm Eli, and you're watching Simply Nintendo.